Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to do an update of our Vermibag Max. Now, it's been a while since I've done one of these updates on this bag, but I have been keeping it going. I've been adding food. I haven't done any harvesting from it because I haven't been feeding it quite as much since I have so many bins in the house and I was doing the Bokashi and everything, which, by the way, if you're curious, I'll post some links to some of these other videos I've been doing for some of my other experiments and everything. Between the sponges, the bag, and then the Bokashi bucket. I've had a couple experiments going on, and I haven't really kept up with some of my other systems quite as much as I should be. So this is an update of the Vermibag Max, not the small one, but the bigger one. And I just want to kind of go over how it's doing, because it has been working really well, especially in the hot, humid summer I had here in Maryland. I have also the urban worm bag. That one kind of had some moisture issues with it. It was kind of getting a little bit too moist, had a lot more bedding to kind of solve those issues. But during the winter, though, I have the reverse. And my Vermibag tends to do really not as well in the winter because it's so dry, and the urban worm bag does really well because it's able to hold that moisture in, and even though with the dry air around it. So let's go to the bag and take a look at how it's doing. All right, here's our Vermibag Max system. Still just the netting on top. I think they have some new models now that actually have some plastic or the same materials. I think over on the sides here, this kind of plasticky material that holds in moisture going around the top. And I think he has another one with a zipper in the middle, which I think is fantastic. It's great to have options, especially as climate changes depending on where you are and this season of the year. So as I said, here in Maryland, I get these really dry winters, and it's really hard to deal with these bins during the winter, where they can dry out. Now, this one I know does during the winter. The other one is great, but this one does dry out a little bit. So as you can tell, I've added some peanut shells in here, as you can see right here, but nothing major as far as that. I have a pizza box top right here in here to kind of hold in the material underneath. So we're going to move that off to the side here. Let's not try not to drop all this stuff outside of the bin here. Let's just see here. There's a couple fruit flies in here, or fungus gnats or something. So as you can see, I've got some coffee grounds in here that I threw in. Oh, actually, there's some worms in here. Worms right here in the coffee grounds already. Finding some, and these are pretty fresh. I threw these in fairly recently. A little bit dry in here. Oh, lots of pot worms. Let me zoom in on those if I can. See if I can zoom in and show you these pot worms. Hold on here. Can't do it when I've got to hold this up. So we're going to try to hold that back a little bit. There we go. So let's zoom in here and take a look at these pot worms we've got in here. I can't focus that close, but you should be able to see some of them on there. Especially in right over here, there's a bunch. So we do have pot worms in here, which happens, I find, with coffee grounds. It's really hard to control those. I've never had, I have to say, every time I've thrown coffee grounds in a bin, I eventually end up with pot worms a little bit, and then they sort of dissipate and go away. But really nice, loose, airy material in here. As we dig down here, let's just move this back out of the way here. You know what? Hold on a second here. Let's be smart about this. I'm going to grab a little tub here to just hoist this piece into, since it's so large, and put it in this tub. And then we'll add it back in at the end. Just a lot easier that way. So now we can move this out of the way. Get down in here to the bottom section. Still a lot of coffee grounds. I do add a lot of coffee grounds to this bin. There's some worms crawling around in here, though, as you can see right here. Definitely some worms in here. A little bit dry right now. I haven't been adding a lot of moisture in here. Oh, here we go. So we get down to the bottom here where I think the food was. Just see if I can get this here. All right, look at this. Now, this is what I see in here a lot when I get towards the bottom. As you can see, it's just loaded with worms. I mean, all over here. And this is what I see a lot as I move towards the bottom of this. And it's a nice, loose material. It's not really, it's not something that's going to be hard to get out of here. I mean, it's almost like it's a real good consistency. I still have something that's growing in here. I can feel it with the root system, which I think I've talked about before in this bin. So as you can see here, I've got this root system growing in here of some sort, but it seems to be Not nearly as much as I used to. Before it was almost I couldn't even dig up this bin at all because it was so tightly tangled with this root material. I think I've had a couple of people call it like a mycelium or something like that. So it is something that can happen, I'm guessing, in bins. It's the first time I've ever had this happen, is where I'm getting this type of material out of it. But it's still doing really well. As you can see, there's just loads of worms in here. I'm going to dig over here a little bit, finding the same thing. Up here we go. Here's the more of the mycelium here. But we have right here, this is a towel that I threw in here. It's almost gone. This is all that's left of this massive towel that I had. This was a huge towel that I had for years with for the bathroom, and it was 100% cotton, and look at that, it is almost gone. So that's all that's left of this towel. I mean, it's doing really well in here. You know, it's a little dry. I think I might have to add some water to this bin. I've kind of been holding back because of how wet it was before. You know, it was just drying out enough, you know, with the humidity in there, but it's getting cooler out, so it's starting to probably dry up a little bit more as the temperatures dropped in Maryland here from the highs of 90s that we were having. Well, look at this material. I mean, this is just beautiful material that I'm getting out of this bin. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous material, even with the primarily cardboard stock that I have in here. So, anyhow, that's how this bin... Actually, let's see if we can dig down a little bit further. Let's just dig down a little bit more. It's kind of compact here at the bottom, but we're going to throw some stuff to the side here, and I'll add some more. So, as you can see here, I'm trying to figure out where I need to hold it to get this in view. But there's just a really good, nice material in here. I mean, it crumbles apart. I mean, it's not sticking to my fingers, really. It's a great consistency. I have to say, I'm really, really pleased with the Vermibag system. I do like the idea, as I said, though, about having some sort of like extra way that I can open it and close it as necessary to kind of air it out, or, you know, keep it closed and contained to keep it dry. All right, let me just get down to oh, wow, this is really compact down in here. So this is ready to be harvested. But look at, I mean, this material is just great. I mean, just, you know, you squeeze it a little bit, it crumbles apart. I mean, like, that's how compost is supposed to look at the end of this process. I mean, just crumbles apart in your hands. It's not too wet, not too dry. You know, if I were to squeeze it, I probably wouldn't get any water out of it, but I am getting more worms. There's more worms down in here, too. Now, as I said, it's a little bit compacted. All right, now here's more of this root system in here. But look at these worms. I mean, just look at them. They're all through here. They're eating constantly. It's just really healthy system. Big chunk of this root system, though. So another big chunk of it. So hopefully I'm pulling it apart here, killing whatever that is in the process. That way I can get my system to break it down, because it will. These worms will break all that stuff down. But this is just great system here. It's really working well. So what I'm going to do now is I have this cardboard on top here that's really sort of working well. And I'm going to just dump a whole bunch of food in here. I think this needs a lot more food. I thought I'd added food about a week ago, and it's already all gone. I really thought that there'd be more in here, to be honest with you. So I'm going to dump in this huge thing of food here. So this is frozen right now, but it'll thaw quickly. So we've got, this is some lettuce that went bad really quickly after we bought it, banana peels, some celery that went bad, carrot peelings. So I'm just going to break this apart a little bit. So there we go. This is kind of broken down a little bit. Now, the fact I freeze my food, for those of you that haven't watched a lot of my videos, I freeze a lot of my food. And the reason why is that way I can use it when I need it instead of trying to always throw it in the bins. It also kills any bugs, like especially with bananas where you might have bugs on them that have laid eggs. It's going to kind of kill those if you freeze them. The other reason why is freezing it starts the process of breaking it down. What it does is all these cells in the plants and stuff, they have water in them. And that water breaks apart the cells when they freeze, you know, because they freeze in ice crystals. You know, I mean, you see the ice in here. It's not just, you know, nice and broken down. It's actually, it's you know, jaggedy. You can hear it. So those ice crystals are going to help break down that food even more. So here's what we're going to put on top. There's a good layer of bedding underneath. So what I'm going to need now is I'm going to need to put on some bedding on top of this to kind of make sure that it stays in here, but also the bugs don't consume it. Like, I don't want a whole lot of bugs getting in the food and then spreading around. So I'm going to take off my glove here. I'm going to grab stuff from my Royal Shredder here. I'm going to dump in a small layer on top here. So that's just kind of layered up a little bit more. These are big bins too. They hold a lot of stuff. I really could probably put in twice as much food in here as I do. And I probably should be adding more food than I have been. As I said at the beginning of the video, I have a lot of bins in my house. You know, this Vermibag, I've got an urban worm bag right over here next to it. I have another bin up there which had sponges in it. I had another bin that had bags in it, and then I also have another one of these systems, the mini version, which I'm not a big fan of compared to this large one. The mini system, I think, is just too small and lets off too much moisture. It's very hard to keep it going properly. So, last part here, I'm going to add in this pizza box cover back in here, which has already been eaten through, but I do add I've been trying to use up my pizza boxes that I have because I can't recycle them, and I don't want to put them through my shredder because I'm afraid of it breaking the shredder with the oils that are on it. So I've been adding these back in here like this, and then I've been covering with paper. So what I do is I then take this and I cover them with shredded paper. I'm going to add the rest of that shredded paper in there now. And what this does is it kind of creates a barrier. So it makes it where any gnats or anything that gets down into the food, now what they have to do is they have to go through this hard cardboard lid, which they're not going to do. So they're going to go around the outside, which I then have all this cardboard around. So what I'm hoping is this kind of keeps the bug population down. And so far I've found it to work pretty well, and also makes it where you just kind of lift up a corner, you can get in there. The bugs, yeah, they can go to the walls and kind of get out, but it's a lot less. At one point, I know I've had it probably an infestation in almost every bin that I've had. This sort of holds them back and sort of prevents it. So that's my update. I hope you enjoyed this. I don't feel it needs water with that food in there, so I'm not going to add any water this time, but I do have a spray bottle that I use, a big chemical sprayer that I use that I filled with just water to spray these down. I'm not going to do it this time, but maybe the next time I look in here, if I find it to be a little bit dry, I might add some more water to it. So I hope you enjoyed this update. If you have any questions or want to purchase one of these, please ask in the comments and check the description for links to some of the stuff you see in this video. Thank you very much, and please like and subscribe.